Once upon a time. Remember those 4 words. I had to congratulate Cindy. You know, she's 33 years is a long time. Without her, my heart will stop. See, the new people are my heartbeat. They're the ones that keep me going. Thanks, Cindy, for being here. I met a young guy in the kitchen, Alec. Where you at? 16 years old, 3 months sober.
All right.
If you want to wait till I'm halfway done to turn that up, I can start over at about 9. I was in the bathroom. You know, that's funny. Billy followed me into the bathroom. I was in the bath. Things happen in the bathroom when you're sober. I just went to the bathroom before we started, and the guy says, well, it's getting closer. You nervous? I said, no, not really. The biggest reason I'm not nervous when I speak in front of a crowd today, about 5 years ago, I was speaking in the north side of Pittsburgh, and a guy that I know real well, Gene R., with 33 years back then, 5 years more than me, we knew each other for a long time. And I was, you know, I'd get nervous before a meeting, and I got nervous there, you know, and when I got done speaking, while I was speaking, about 2 minutes into my story, Gene fell asleep. And he slept the whole time. But what was funny that's changed me from being nervous when I speak, after I got done speaking, there was a line to thank me. Gene was about the 4th or 5th person, and he shook my hand and said, Tony, that's the best I ever heard you. So the bottom line, you ain't going to hear what I say anyhow, so why get nervous? No, I'm kidding. Did I say my name?
Yeah.
Just seeing who's awake. My name's Tony Bark. I'm an alcoholic. I'm honored to be here. I'm flattered. The day I met my sponsor, 33 and a half years ago, on August 4th, 1977, we talked for a while, and I was sharing this with a few people. That first day after getting to know me, I talked about my past. He told me, I'm going to tell you one thing, son. You're not going to make this program. And we talked for a while, and I didn't talk in the 4-letter words that I do today. You know, I talk about love, care, hope. I didn't use those 4-letter words back then. And when he said, you're not going to make this program, son, I was a little ignorant and said, why would you tell me something like that? He said, I'm not going to give you the answer, son. If you ever get enough sober time together, you'll understand why I'm telling you, you will not make this program. I've never relapsed. 33 years, I believe, is enough time. And you know what he taught me? I've been the feet and yards for 33 years. You know how grateful that makes me? And how close to God it puts me? That's what he taught me the first day. And he taught me things from that day on that are unbelievable. If you don't have a sponsor before you leave, get one, please. And one thing about a sponsor, I've seen a lot of people, if they get a sponsor and uncomfortable, they don't think they can change sponsors. Change sponsors. Don't worry about it. The bottom line is, you know, I keep hearing this relapse is part of recovery. Relapse is part of recovery. You know, that come out of treatment centers. I work at a treatment center, and I understand where it's coming from. But you know, starting tonight, I want you to take a turn with you, and I want you to put it back out at your home groups and meetings to counteract that relapse is part of recovery. How about recovery is part of recovery? How about that one? Let's go with that one for a while. I don't talk in any kind of arrogance that I haven't picked up since I've been sober, 23 years old. It's all through listening to my sponsor. Have I made mistakes in 33 years? Ask some of the relationships I've been in. I've made mistakes in 33 years that I'm embarrassed to talk about from this podium. I've made every mistake there is but one. I haven't picked up. Because as a young punk kid at 23 years old, I heard a speaker say, once I can understand that alcohol was the problem in my life, not one of the problems, the problem, my recovery begins. And I share with a lot of the guys that I sponsor and I'm with. I don't know when it happened. I don't know what time or date. But I know August 4th, 1977 is my sobriety date. But my real, true life began when gratitude entered my heart. Because from that moment on, my whole outlook and attitude on life has changed. It's amazing. I guess it was early December. I'm in a Walmart, and there was a little boy in front of me, probably about 6 or 7 years old. And he had two big presents on the counter, and I was behind him. And I'm always having fun, kidding around, and I told this boy, hey, what are you doing with them two big gifts right before Christmas? Santa Claus is supposed to be doing that. And he got like scared. You know, and he said, well, I'm with my grandmother, and they give me birthday money, and my father, and, you know, some of my cousins, and I'm spending my birthday money. I said, cool, that's all right then. Santa Claus won't worry. He got all excited, and he was showing me his present, you know, his toys. And I looked at that kid, and I remember when I was a kid, and I remember having toys and being excited like that. But you know what was missing? Gratitude. I've been excited my whole life. But until gratitude entered my heart, it never meant anything. It had no substance. So when gratitude entered my life started. And it's been on a ride ever since. All good. 33 years is a long time. You know, it amazes me to be sober that long. But you know what 33 years sober and Alcoholics Anonymous really means, to be honest with you? And I like illustrations and jokes because to me they get the meaning across a lot better. A priest and a rabbi went to a boxing match, and they saw three bouts. There was a short intermission. And right after the intermission, the fourth bout got in the ring, two guys, and right before they rang the bell, the one guy went like that, the priest stuck his chest out, and they started fighting, and the rabbi looked at the priest and said, hey, that's one of your guys, Father, and he went. So the two guys were fighting, and the rabbi nudged the priest and said, Father, I don't mean to be ignorant, but when your guy does that stuff, you know, what does that really mean? And the priest looked at the rabbi and said, it don't mean shit if you don't know how to box. So with 33 years, I could flatter you with all kind of words out of the big book and, you know, all this knowledge that I've acquired. You know, how about a half a Pollock acquiring knowledge? You tell me there's not a God. Well, I can flatter you with all this stuff up here and impress you, but tomorrow morning on the way to here for breakfast, if somebody pulls in front of me and I give them the finger and say, you MFer, I'm full of shit. All I done was fake me out, not you. See, that's what I've learned. It's easy to fake you out. I don't want to fake that guy in the mirror anymore. You know, that's the kind of stuff you people have taught me. In 33 years, I've heard a lot of jokes about alcohol. And I got to tell you my favorite one, because Billy said if I don't say this, he'll never introduce me again as a speaker. You notice the only difference with me and Billy with the suit and the purple is this here. See, this indicates sponsor, and his indicates sponsee. So he told me when I die and I'm laid out, he's going to pull it out of my pocket. I learned another thing tonight, too. If you want another year of sobriety quick, sit next to Charlie. You know, he said 34 years. That's you, Tony. Charlie forgot I got 33. So if you wanted a quick year, sit next to Charlie. But here's my favorite joke in 33 years. Mine, anyhow. A nun went into the state store and ordered a gallon of wine, and the clerk said, Sister, I didn't know you drank like that. And the nun said, oh, this isn't for me. This is for Mother Superior's bowel movement. Well, he didn't want to talk about Mother Superior's bowel movement. He sold her the gallon of wine, and she went, you know, she left. 9 o'clock come, he closed the state store. It's real dark out. And he crosses this dark alley and hears this giggling. So he walks back into the alley. Here's that nun spread eagle underwear show, and she's a wreck, and there's about that much wine left in the gallon. And he got over and said, Sister, I thought you said this was for Mother Superior's bowel movement. She said, when she sees me, she's going to shit. I told a few people, if I talk to 11, you won't care, because we're going to have a lot of fun. No, I'm not kidding. But one that was close to that almost topped it might have. You know, I have a pride. Alcohol is called a disease of perception. You know, when I picked up that first drink at 13 years old, my whole attitude and outlook on life changed. And my perception of life was distorted. And I always had a trouble with my fourth step with perception. You know, even like now, in the little bit of time I've been talking, and everyone's laughing, I'll just say this guy here, he's just cold stare, he's just staring at me. And everybody's laughing, he just, 20 minutes into my lead, I know he don't like me. I never met him. He don't know me, I don't know him, but I know by how he's looking at it, he don't like me. Well, the way he's looking at me, I don't like him either, but I can't say it. But I was at an anniversary meeting once, and a lady from Baltimore was speaking, and she told a joke about perception that it's changed my whole attitude on perception, and I don't care what you think about me. But she talked about perception, how it gets distorted. There was an old man in a park, and he was sitting on a bench, and there was a walkway. Right across from him, another park bench. About 20 minutes went by, and this 13, 14-year-old little boy come across and sat across from him on a bench. He had spiked hair. It was normal for his age. His hair was spiked, all colors, purple, red, green, orange, and the old man just kept staring at him. So about a half an hour went by, and this young kid come right in his face. He said, "Hey, old man, why are you staring at me like that? Weren't you ever cool in your life?" The old man like you was sitting there, and he chuckled. He said, "Yeah, I was cool once, and I used to drink. And I had sex with a peacock, and I'm wondering if you're my son." Somebody told me I should be a stand-up comedian. I said, why the hell would I stand up? I'm going to be first sit-down comedian. I'm going to enjoy myself. We were riding out here, Alan and I, and to put the mode right, bring it up to today, what it's like today in my thought process. If you've watched the news for the last 2 or 3 days, it's amazing what an 8.9 earthquake off the shore of Japan could do to this world. The destruction and the devastation and the fear and the paranoia. It's amazing. You know what I thought of coming up here with Alan? What a 3.2 beer can cause in my life. And the tsunami that will follow after that. Anybody in my ways. It's amazing. But that's how I think today. That's all I think about. AA and stuff like that. That's all I want to think about. I get goosebumps. Because when I thought of that, that was God talking to me. I'm not that smart. I only look educated and smart. You know what's amazing with 33 years sober? I don't even look that old, I know Jill pretty well, and I recognized her when she got up here, and, with 27 years and 33. 2 people come in at a young age and have 60 years sobriety. That's amazing. And you know what's amazing about it? The power of God. Not the power of Jill and Tony. And I'm not speaking for Jill, but I guess I am. So she'll be yelling at me after the meeting. But that's amazing. And that's why when I met Alec in the kitchen with 3 months and 16 years old, the hope I got for him. What a life. And I told him next year he better have a year and 3 months. If he don't, he's gonna be introduced to a lower power. I grew up in Pittsburgh. The youngest thing I can remember as a kid, I was about 5 years old. And it's amazing when I tell this story how many people come up to me afterwards and they recollect something in their past that caused what happened to me at 5 or 6 years old. I'm riding a bicycle down an alley, and I didn't know it then, but I know it now. My dad was coming home drunk. I didn't have training wheels for the first time. I was excited. I was enthused. And I said, "Dad, look, no training wheels." And as I rode by him, he just kicked me off the bike. And I thought he tripped. And when I looked for my dad to help, he just kept, I can see him wallowing down the alley right now. And I didn't understand alcoholism or, he might have dropped his whole paycheck in the bar. Now I know. He's married to my mom. He might have lost his girlfriend that day. What do I know? But the last thing he wanted to hear was about me not having training wheels. And he pushed me off the bike. I was about 5 or 6 years old. I picked the drink up late in my life. My first drink was at 13. And I say late because I should have picked up a drink that moment in the alley when my dad pushed me off that bike. Because something happened up here. I got damaged. And it's amazing the people shaking their head because they understand what I'm saying. How many people come up to me afterwards and say, "Man, I remember being a kid in the closet and hiding when my mom and dad was fighting." Damage happened up here. It's amazing. But what's more amazing about that, I carried that damage and a lot more till the day I had my first drink at 13. Two things happened when I picked up that drink at 13. I never thought about that issue anymore. It was like that eraser just took the blackboard clean. There was no pain or guilt. I was that restless, irritable, and discontent person. But when I picked up that first drink, it's amazing what it did to my thought process. Alcohol was a friend. The second thing it did to me, before that drink, I was like Pee Wee Herman. After the drink, I was like the cross between John Travolta and Rambo. I could comb the hair on my chest. I mean, it's amazing what happened to me after one drink. I don't know about anybody else, but if you drink enough, long enough, and you're alcoholic, it'll actually affect your sex life. Now, I remember when I started out with sex, I was scared, I was nervous, I got used to it, though. You get used to sex. And I had a lot of fun with sex. And then when I started dating, it went downhill. Because sex before I dated didn't have that R word, responsibility. And my arm wasn't going to call and say, "I'm pregnant, Tom." If I offend anybody here, keep drinking, come back. I won't offend you. I'm just telling you the truth. If you see me without a shirt, my right arm's bigger than my left, so just didn't happen that way. But anyhow, alcohol will affect your sex life. I heard a guy and I could relate to it. I was in a bar on a Monday one day and I was hitting on this girl next to me. And she couldn't meet me till Thursday. No, I didn't care. As long as she met me, I didn't care. I was at the bar Thursday and she come in. She gained 47 pounds in 3 days. Now, for you women out there, the men got their chests out now. They know what I'm talking about. Well, for you women, I know you have went to bed with a John Travolta and woke up with Shrek. Who put him in my bed? Alcohol will affect your sex life. It's funny how many people are laughing. They know what I'm talking about. But after my dad did that, I picked up a drink at 13 and my alcoholism was on the way. A lot of people talk about that imaginary line. I think when the doctor slapped me, I was an alcoholic. I think I was alcoholic from day one, waiting for the drink to complete the alcoholism. But I'm 13 years old. I drank a gallon of wine. and I was pronounced dead at arrival in a hospital in Pittsburgh. And I'm like everybody else. You think that should have taught me a lesson. You know, I remember the one guy saying the best definition of an alcoholic I ever heard. When you take that first swig of whiskey or beer or whatever, and you're coughing and choking and you're sweating and you're almost dead, and you wipe it off, say, boy, that was good. You know, you're on your way to alcoholism. You know, you're already into denial. You can't even breathe. You know, one eye's hanging out, and boy, that was good. You know, you go home to the wrong people. Man, can I have another drink? You're on your way. Denial's already started. But when I picked up that first drink, I got a status from my boys that I loafed with. It's funny, the closer to death the night before, the closer to death I got to, the more of a hero I was the next day. It's amazing, the guys I loafed with. You know, and I got a status. I was cool. All I wanted to do was be cool with life. And when I started drinking, I thought I was cool. People tell me now when they see me, they say, you think you're cool, don't you? I say, no, I know I am. I don't drink and I go to meetings. I'm cool. And my sponsor taught me about cool when he heard I wanted to be cool. And he said, you know, it's amazing how close cool and fool is. You know, he would talk and it would just click. You know, I get it, Tony. I get it. His name was Tony. You know, God sent me another Tony in my life. But I'm in trouble. Something happened with my parents, and the best way I can say that I grew up, the simplest way I can put out to you how I grew up was an HBO series called The Sopranos. I had a father that was so powerful in life, it was amazing. And I saw people come into my dad's home, our home, priests, prostitutes, judges, lawyers, hitmen. I saw it all. And I grew up a lifestyle from 13 to 23 with my drinking with no accountability. I shouldn't be here. I looked at my father and saw what he could do with power. And as a little kid, that's the two things I wanted in life. I wanted the power of my father. And I got it. God's been so good to me, I got it. But it's a different father, and it's a power so strong, can't hurt anybody. I got the power of my father. The thing that I always wanted as a kid. And I'm so grateful. When I think of my life, I get emotional. You know, there's been so many ups and downs and variables, but one constant is I haven't picked up the drink. And that's my saving grace. You know, because without that, somebody else would be speaking tonight. There's no doubt in my mind. Just to show you some highlights of how I was. 15 years old, I left at a pizza shop with my buddies, the leather coats and a pint of whiskey. We were cool. You know, and to show you a typical Sunday night, when we were a kid, used to watch Bonanza and Ed Sullivan and go to bed. You know, I can tell people's age here, they're shaking their head. But this one Sunday night, my best friend Billy come across the street, and I said, hey, Billy, you want to run away? Guess what Billy said? Wait till I get my coat. You know, there was no thought process to our destruction back then. Okay, what I get we hopped on a bus and went to Cleveland and played pinball machines overnight and then come back home. That's what we were crazy. 15 years old, there was so much money in our house. My mother and dad used to wrap money in freezer paper and put it down in the freezer. And then mark it ground round and sirloin. My first job was a butcher. I would go down and help myself to sirloin and pack of ground round. There was so much money in the house, they never missed it. When they did, I put the money back. It was amazing. Because my mom, the way my dad, I didn't know it then, but the way my dad drank, he moved an older brother into the house, my half-brother, my oldest half-brother. And he and my mom didn't get along, so my dad sort of favored him, and my mom sort of favored me. Now, when money was always missing, they knew it was me. But my mom blamed my dad blamed his son, and I was scot-free. And I would just drink my way to oblivion. But one time, just to show you where my head's at, I'm 15 years old, I took some money, there was a drop ceiling, I would put it there, and after so many days, if there wasn't any rumble, I knew it was mine. So I closed the bedroom door, and I got the money. My mom always had her money, 1, 5, 10s, 20s, 50s, and 100s in her wallet. And I started out with 2 rolls of pennies. And I It's a progressive disease, that stealing thing. I kept getting more and more, and one day I put my fingers in between 10s and 20s and grabbed the stash, put it in my pocket, put it in the drop ceiling. A few weeks went by, no holler of that, so I got the money in a con, and she had her money mixed up. It was all hundreds and fifties in between. I had $3,500. When you're 15 years old and have $3,500, I call that a dilemma. You know, I don't even know how to pee straight yet, and I got $3,500. I knew one thing with $3,500, Kennywood was on. You know, how much can you fish with $3,500? But to show you where my mind was at, I got a friend, stole my mother's car, went to Cleveland Racetrack, Thistledown Racetrack in Cleveland. Because that's what I did with my parents. I loafed with them. I gambled. I watched them gamble. And I watched my dad. Why I went to Thistledown Racetrack in Cleveland when I was 15, I was impressed that right across the street from Thistledown Racetrack was Randall Racetrack. It impressed me that two racetracks were right across the street from each other. Needless to say, I was in a lot of trouble. John Voight had a movie I called Runaway Train, and that's what I was. I was a runaway train with no engineer, no conductor on the track, going 100 miles an hour. Whoever's in the way, watch out. And I was in trouble, but I thought I was cool. I thought I was the luckiest guy in the world back then. And now I know today, looking back, I was deprived as a kid. I was really deprived. I had too much. I was deprived in a way that's not talked about too much. I was enabled and had so much. I was deprived as a kid. My young life was stolen from me by how much I had. I know that today. But I also know why God chose me to be sober, so I can look at that and realize how lucky I am. And I know it. There's no doubt in my mind. 17 years old, I got a girl. Well, let me... One of the important things I want to remember about my half-brother growing up in that house. He was a year older than me. He was Mr. Football, played a big 33 game, 4.0 average. I was second in my class, you know, from the bottom though. But he was valedictorian. He was Mr. Everything. He would get up in the morning. We shared the same bedroom, and he would get ready, and he would walk out. I would skip school and go to the alley, and my buddies would get beer and would play poker. Why would I go to school? You know, when I skipped school and played poker, he was learning how high the Alps were. I'm learning how to draw to an inside straight. And he's in school, and if he said how high the Alps were, and I won the hand, I won money. Why would I go to school? It didn't make sense. But one morning, he was walking out of the bedroom with books under both arms, and I looked at him and I said, "Joey, what are you, a moron?" And he looked at me and he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Why would you carry them books to school every day? You got to be a moron." Only an alcoholic knows this look. Joey looked at me and went, you know, and I thought he was a Polish bobblehead or something, you know, going the wrong way. Since I've been sober, I know what that look means. You poor soul. You poor soul. But here's what I want to remember, what AA's taught me. Joey took them books and he went to school, and he felt sorry for me. I skipped school, got some beer, went to the alley with my buddies. Here's what you people taught me. Joey left for school in the morning with his dream under his arms. He had a goal. He had a purpose. He had a destiny to become something. Joey's a doctor today. I'm an Alcoholics Anonymous. But you know what I want to remember? As Joey took the books to school, I had the beer under my arm going to the alley. I had my dream under my arms too. If I lived to become an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous, that's how good God's been to me. And you know what? When I think about it, I'm more blessed than my own brother that's a doctor. Because he heals people and gets a fee. I try to help people and get another day sober. You know how blessed I am? And you can't measure my bank account at the bank, but you can measure it in here. Well, I'm lucky. Well, I do sound good, don't I? People People that know me know I joke around. People that don't think, how can he stay sober with that ego? When I do that stuff, if I was serious, I'd have been drunk 34 years ago. I never would have had one day. I would have been the guy that they said, anybody ready to start sobriety, don't have any days, I would have come up here and thanked you for being here. That's the ego I have. I was the type of guy with an ego the way I was raised with my dad. If you didn't know me, I felt sorry for you. You know, I did. I felt so bad for you that you didn't know me. And I had an anger and a rage that if I rode by you and it was raining and you was changing the tire, I never thought about helping you. I rode by hoping to start raining on you. You know? I like to see people in pain. I like to see people miserable. Now I know why. Because I didn't have to look at mine. The people have taught me a lot. I've learned so much in the range of Alcoholics Anonymous. 17 years old, I got a girl pregnant in school. She was 16. And that was a dilemma. You know, I thought that 3,500 was a dilemma. I'm 17, she's 16, she's pregnant. We had a choice to make, and her mom said she wants her to get an abortion. She didn't like me. When she said that, I knew we were getting married. You know, you don't tell me stuff like that. So here's the power of my dad coming into my life. I quit school at 17 in 11th grade. The next day, my dad handed me a high school diploma from the school I just quit. You know what I told my father? See, I didn't know gratitude yet. You know what I told my father? Why'd you make me go so long? No, he could have got me that in 3rd grade and saved the teachers a lot of stress. You know, my mom had my yearbook. And it's funny, my brother, my older brother, and me, they have our pictures and a saying under each picture. And guess what my brother's was? Most likely to succeed in life. Guess what mine was? Best dressed. I was all dressed up and nowhere to go. You know? When I got this girl pregnant in school, I quit school. She got pregnant and she quit school, and in January 1971, I quit school officially. I went to work at U.S. Steel in Pittsburgh. You had to be 18. I was 17. I told my dad, Dad, you got to be 18. I knew he knew people, but I got to be 18. He just chuckled. You know, he went and got ink eradicated and changed my birth certificate from 1953 to 1952, and I got a year older, faster than Charlie gave me a year to buy. Don't sleep with Charlie tonight. You'll turn the clocks ahead 2 hours. You know? You ever do this in October, Neil? Okay, because I'm going to bring Charlie to turn the clocks back. I can talk an extra hour. But anyhow, this girl quit school. My mom set us up in a place, apartment, brand new car, brand new Firebird, brand new job, brand new everything. July 26, 1971, my son was born. Brand new son. I had everything going for him. I started work at U.S. Steel, and I had a moment. I thought, maybe I'm going to try this thing. Husband, father, responsibility. I had a brief moment of, maybe I'll do this. I'm walking out in the mill with some of the people I work with. One of the guys said, Tony, you want to get a beer? And I said, no, I wanted to get home and start this life. The guy said one thing to me. Well, who wears the pants in your family? 3 months later, we were divorced. You know, I had to show her who wears the pants in our family. You know, I had no clue. I had no knowledge. I was just, I guess the big book described it the best. Purposeless existence. I can't think of a better 2 words to explain me. I can't speak for anybody else. But she took off with my son around September of 71. He was only 2 months old. I never met him, never heard his voice, nothing. She filed for divorce, and she gave me a choice. You want to pay adoption, pay child support, or sign adoption papers? That's not a choice when you're drinking. I'm not paying for no kid because in my alcoholic thinking, it's probably not mine anyhow. You know, and I knew it was my son, but I had to justify that move to sign adoption papers. So I signed my son away and I never met him. About 19 years ago, he was 25 years old. I'm sober, 14 years or whatever it was. I'm in Altoona. I'm a supervisor of Code Forge in Williamsburg, and the phone rings in my living room, and I said, hello. He said, is this Tony? I said, yeah. He said, this is your son, Tony. 19 years sober. Yeah? He said, I've heard some good things about you. Would you mind coming to Pittsburgh to meet me? I'd like to talk to you. I said, absolutely, I'll come. Courage instead of fear. But on the way to Pittsburgh to meet my son for the first time in 25 years, it was fear instead of courage. I was scared. What do you tell a boy after 25 years? And all the old-timers that taught me Alcoholics Anonymous and recovery were whispering in my ear, tell your son the truth, Tony. Tell him the truth. And a lot of times people know my life. Twice I did it at a meeting. May 26th, my grandson was born, and he named him Tony after me. That's how close we are. And twice at a meeting I've called, I said, how many times you hear, I didn't know my son for 25 years. How many times you hear about a miracle from the podium? I'm going to show you. And I bring my son and grandson up. You know, all you told me when I was a 23-year-old punk kid was don't drink, go to meetings. And you guaranteed my life would get better. You never said that you'd have 3 generations of Tonys up at the podium with you one day. You never told me none of that stuff. You said, don't drink, go to meetings. My life is unbelievable. Right after that, I'm sitting at a bar. Even to today, probably the prettiest Italian girl I ever see. She was a barmaid. And I'm just staring at her. I wasn't mad at her. I was staring at her. But it's funny looking back now. The guy next to me set up our marriage because he said, Tony, forget it. You ain't got a chance. Don't tell alcoholic stuff like that. She became victim number 2. She had 3 little girls. My first 2 marriages didn't last a year. You know, and I used to think when I was drinking with my ego, why'd they leave me? Now I'm sober, I'm wondering, what the heck did they even see in me? You know. But anyhow, what I want to remember in that marriage in the short time it was, I moved in with her parents. I was a fake. I was a mess. I was laid off from U.S. Steel and joined the Navy. She didn't even know what I was doing. That's how screwed up she was, the way she was drinking. Oh, by the way, I joined the Navy. I know now I was running. You know why I joined the Navy out of the 4 services? Because I like those bell-bottom pants with the 13 buttons. You know, and the white hat. You know, that was cool. You know, if you're an alcoholic, don't join the Navy with them 13 buttons. Because when you got to pee, I'd get to like button number 4, and that was all I could do. You know. Now, I know no one's ever lost their bowel movements. You know, I know that, just me. But I really believe colored underwear were invented for the alcoholic. You know, I really believe that. But don't join the Navy if you're drinking. You want to, you know, the outfit's cool. But this, I'm AWOL from the Navy. I'm laid off from U.S. Steel. I'd make a score, I'd steal something, I'd go home to her parents' house, and she thought I got my paycheck. That's how screwed up this marriage was. But here's the thing I want to remember. What you taught me in Alcoholics Anonymous is about addiction and blackouts and stuff like that. She had 3 little girls, 7, 6, and 4, whatever it was. And the one little girl, I was in our bedroom, me and my wife's bedroom in her parents' home, and all I felt was something on my arm. And when I looked down, she was looking at me like scared and frightened and uncertain. And when I came out of the blackout, I'm urinating all over the walls in the bedroom, nude, start naked. Remember when my dad pushed me off the bike? I pushed that little girl off the bike that moment. I changed her lifestyle for the rest of her life. I know that today. And I don't know what guilt or shame I felt. I got dressed and I went where? To the bar. But I want to remember after about 3 beers what happened to this alcoholic thought process. It went back to the bedroom and it told me, what was that girl doing in your bedroom unannounced? And the guilt shifted from me to her. And when I got back home, I took that little girl out of a sound sleep and beat her with a belt buckle. I can't do that to a 7-year-old little girl. It's impossible. It's not even a thought. You know what you've taught me? Give me that 1 3.2 bit, and I'll be here again. Because I don't know any better. You know, part of being a man is being tough, and I ain't afraid. And in most cases, I'm not. But I'm scared to death of alcohol. And what I've seen it do in 33 years, 2 years ago, I kissed my sister in the casket. Alcohol and drugs took my sister. That was 2 years ago. I had 31 years, and I knew what lows were. I heard lows for 31 years. And I understood lows. Sometimes people got to hit a low. When I leaned over and kissed my sister in that casket, I know what low is now. So I'm not immune from things that's happened in my life. The only thing that I've done was not pick up a drink and keep going to meetings. That's the two constants that I've done for 30. I've probably averaged 6 meetings a week for 33 years. You know what? I'm sorry that I didn't average 7. I remember my sponsor took me to my first morning in a meeting on 10:30 in the morning, the Salvation Army, and we went to lunch after the meeting. He dropped me off, and he said, I'll be back at 7. And I said, for what? He said, we're going to go to a meeting. I said, we already went to a meeting. He said, oh, that's right. You never drank twice in the same day, did you? I said, all right, I'll be ready at 7. Anyhow, I'm going to try to wrap this up soon because I don't want to go too far over. Too far. Just remember those 2 words, too far. But anyhow, I don't want to stay too long. But I ended up going to Salvation Army, and it's funny, a year before that, my sister was having trouble. She called and asked me for help, and I couldn't help somebody like my sister. I didn't have time for somebody like my sister. If my buddy in a leather coat with a pint of alcohol called and said he needed help, I'd be there in 5 minutes. But I wasn't able to help my sister. So I took her to Salvation Army in Pittsburgh. She got help. She straightened out. She got this thing called AA. She was sober about a year. And a year later, I called her, asked her where I can go, and she said, how about the Salvation Army in Pittsburgh? And I remember telling my sister, Rose, how good did you get? How can I go to the Salvation Army? Me. I thought I was something. When I came in AA at 23, I used to scratch my head like this. 33 years sober, I scratch it like this now. I'm starting to learn humility. But anyhow, I went to the Salvation Army. To make a long story short, that was January 1977. I couldn't stay sober. On August 4th, 1977, they threw me out, and that's my sobriety date, and I've got to be a God. Because they threw me out. I had no direction, no hope, no chance, nothing. And I've been sober ever since. The biggest thing I remember from January to August went to Salvation Army, what kind of person I really became drinking. There was an old officer there named Mrs. Thatcher. She was big. She was like about 400 pounds. And she would always give me a big hug and say, Jesus and God loves you, Tony. And she'd give me a kiss on her cheek. And I remember telling her, Mrs. Thatcher, please don't do that. I don't like to touch people. I'm the huggingest guy you'll ever meet today. I just didn't want her to get to know me. I come in one day and I was drinking, and there was about 20 guys in the lobby, 10, 20 guys, I can't remember, and here she come. And I knew it was going to be bad. Because she was like the alcoholic that didn't drink. I'd tell her not to do it, she kept doing it. But I knew when she was coming at me what was going to happen, and I couldn't run. And she gave me that bear hug and said, you know, Tom, God loves you. That's what I did, because I had to maintain cool in front of those guys watching me. I went right in her face. You know what that lady did? She went like this and gave me another hug. And I stood back and I looked at her and I thought, what the hell is wrong with you? I got sober and I stayed there 3.5 years at the Salvation Army, from 23 to 27. I would go to the retreat and help the guys in the Salvation Army. And I was at a retreat one weekend, and Mrs. Thatcher was cooking hamburgers. And I'm sober about 5 years. They knew I did good. And I didn't see her in a while. She was flipping hamburgers, and I yelled, "Mrs. Thatcher!" She knew my voice. The hamburger flew, the spatula flew. She turned, and she was coming at me again. And I said, "Wait a minute, Mrs. Thatcher. Wait a minute. It's my turn." And I gave her a big hug and said, "God loves you." And I think there's a lake there right now from us crying so much. That lady planted a seed while I was drinking that taught me something today. There's nothing a human being can do to me. Nothing. There's nothing somebody could say about me that could disgrace me the way I did to that lady if she wiped the spit off and give me another hug. Nothing. But that's how my outlook and attitude changed on life. You know, you got to be careful what you say. Because when you say something, if you don't do it, people are going to look at you a little funny. I remember this one illustration. There was a priest at a rectory, and a little boy, like 5 or 6 years old, was pulling a wagon down a sidewalk. And right in front of the rectory with his priest, the wheels fell off the wagon, the toys fell out over the sidewalk, and the little boy stood back and said, "I'll be damned." So the priest come running down and said, son, you don't want to start life out like this. You know, you don't want to start swearing at this age. You'll be in trouble. If something don't happen for you the right way or things don't go right, just say, "Jesus, help me." And the little boy said, "Thank you, Father." And he gave him a hug, and the priest put the wheels on and toys back in the wagon, and he left. 1 week later, there's the priest standing out in the rectory. Here comes the boy with a wagon right in front of the rectory, in front of the priest. The wheels fall off, the toys go everywhere. Little boy stands back and says, "Jesus, help me." It's like a miracle. The wheels pop back on, the toys flew back into the wagon. The priest is standing there. He looks at everything and he said, "I'll be damned." You ever see the sign, "First things first"? I got a joke to that, what that means. 2 guys were golfing. You got any golfers? All right. I know a lot of goofers, but 2 guys were golfing. They're on the 10th green, and one guy's ready to putt. Alcoholic's ready to putt. Right before he putts, he sees a funeral across the street. So he puts his putter down, takes his hat off, bows his head, and as the funeral passes, he puts his hat on, blesses himself, picks up the... Right before he putts, his buddy said, "You know, Arnie, I'm really proud of you." "What do you mean?" He said, "The way you just stopped right in the middle of our game to honor that procession. First things first," Arnie says. "Well, we were married 35 years. That's the least I could do." His wife dies and he's golfing. He's doing first thing first, you know. Now I'm going to end up, wrap this up now, but I like how people say we know how to drink, that's why we're here. I don't understand that. I know how not to drink, that's why I'm here. If I knew how to drink, I wouldn't be here. I like when people say, "I remember this black guy." Think of that. Hey, that's powerful stuff. You know, that'll change the whole court system, the fact it's any validity to it. I'm going to close with this. Here's the type of sponsor I had. You know, we talked to Neil. AA's changed. And I hear different opinions. It has, it hasn't, it hasn't. AA's changed. AA's watered down. It's weak. Jill talked about sometimes having to tell her people stuff. My sponsor told me what to do for 3.5 years. 3 years sober, a guy told me, "Your sponsor's on an ego trip." That's what he means, the way he tells you what to do all the time. That's okay. So I went to his home group and I said, "Hey, Tone, cool, toothpick." I said, "A guy told me you're on an ego trip." He said, "What do you mean, son?" He said, "The way you tell me what to do." He never thought twice. He put his arm around me and he said, "Here's what to tell that guy. I'm always care more about your life than your feelings." And I said, "What else you want me to do, Tom?" people are too worried about feelings and not their lives. And people want to be friends and not sponsors. AA's changed. You know, I see guys with 6 months sponsoring 3 people, and it drives me crazy. You know, I see people with 2 years, and they're sponsoring females and 5 guys, and it just drives me crazy. When I come in AA, you weren't allowed to read for 6 months. You weren't allowed to chair or speak till you got a year. And I was told, keep your mouth shut for at least the first 3 years. I was telling somebody, an old timer come up to me, when I was sober a year, I was going to change how it works. It needed a little tweak. You know, there were some things that I didn't really like in there that talked about me. So I was going to change AA once, or the big book, how it works, and this old man come up to me and said, you know, Tony, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you always listen twice as much as you talk. I didn't know what that meant. And on the way home, I told my buddy, you know, that asshole told me to shut up, man. But you know what? I went to my room that night in the Salvation Army, and I'm laying there, and I'm getting spiritual, and I'm thinking, wow, you know what? Maybe that's why God did give me 2 ears and 1 mouth. Because up to that point, I've always talked twice as much as I ever listened, and wonder why I'm a climb in the Salvation Army fighting the disease of alcoholism. So I went back to that meeting the next week, and I couldn't wait to meet this guy. He was an old man named Buck. I said, Buck, thanks. He said, for what? I said, nobody has ever told me to shut up so kindly. And he chuckled, and he said, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to give you a little secret, Tone. If you're ever walking down the street and you see somebody coming at you with 2 mouths and 1 ear, drink, quick. But what they taught me, those old timers had a tact. If I was sitting there or acting comfortable, they'd make me uncomfortable. And if I was sitting there uncomfortable, they'd offer me comfort. They had a tact and an ability. You know, back then when 10 people came into AA, 9 stayed sober without relapse. Today, when 10 people come in AA, 11 relapse. AA hasn't changed, though. AA's changed. Billy was at a conference up in Cleveland a year and a half ago. There were 12 members of the board, 12 old-timers, all 40 years and over. They were asked, what's the biggest change in Alcoholics Anonymous? All 12 wrote the same thing. Sponsorship. When somebody's talking at a meeting and really upsetting people and stuff, I'm not mad at them. It's not their fault. It's their sponsors. I'm sorry to ruffle some feathers, but I'm really not sorry. That's where recovery starts, and that's where it's always going to start. If you're in the friendship business, get out. I'm going to end with this. Here's how my sponsor was. I want you to stay away from females for a year. I thought I got a wrong sponsor. You know, I jumped the gun. You know, Billy followed me in the bathroom. That's like him telling me to stay away from females for a year. You know, I thought a drink and a female went together. He wanted me to quit both at the same time. I might as well quit smoking too and end up in a nut house. Stay away from females for a year. My mother and dad was divorced. Stay away from your parents for a year. All these things, and I did them. I'm sober 3 months in November, the first year, 1977. My mom and dad's divorced. My mom called me over for Thanksgiving. She wants to invite me for Thanksgiving, and I called my sponsor. Now, I know he don't want me to be there, but I asked him, Tony, my mom wants me to come over for Thanksgiving. Would you want to come over? And I said, well, let me call my sponsor, and I asked him, can I go to see my mom? He said, I told you to stay away for a year. Why would you want to? I don't know. Tony, she's alone. You know, I feel a little bad for her. But why would you want to go there when I told you to wait a year? And all I said was, Tony, I love my mother. That's what he said. What'd you do, flick a switch? You don't know what love is, son. Tell your mother you'll see her next year. And I did. I didn't go. You know how many Thanksgivings I've had with my mom sober? October 22nd. My mom passed away. And it was about an 8-week stay in the hospital. It was pretty rough. And every day I went in, I watched my mom dying. And I didn't know That night, on October 21st, when I held her hand and gave her a kiss and said, "I'll see you tomorrow, Mom," she was in a coma and she was like fidgety, and a little tear come out of her left eye. And I didn't know it then, but I knew the next day she was telling me, "You're not going to see me tomorrow." But you know what's nice about that whole time? When I was with my mom and I held her hand, she was dying. She knew that I loved her. I didn't flick a switch because of AA and God. I told Bruce to remember how I opened a meeting. Remember what it was, Bruce? What I say? Once upon a time. Guess how my name did? We all heard of fairy tales growing up as children. And I don't know a fairy tale that never had a happy ending. Alec, Cindy, if you stay with us, you'll be able to understand this. Once upon a time, they all lived happily ever after. Thank you.